The idea of an iris or multi-plane tracking and flying things is kind of an idea that's been in theatrical scenery for hundreds of years. There's something a little nostalgic about it, and we were pretty interested in that because there is something very nostalgic in the DNA of this show.
It's the perfect day to look out the window. Today the air in Seoul is...
Maybe Happy Ending is the story of Oliver and Claire, who are two human-like robots called helper bots. They live outside Seoul, Korea in the near future. They meet each other, they go on an extraordinary adventure and learn whether or not it's possible for robots to fall in love. Cut to, I think, 2022. We were tasked with the adaptation for Broadway. I was in Tokyo, and I think there was a little like osmosis of being in, you know, an Asian super metropolis, and a design emerged out of that time. My close collaborator, Michael Arden, who directed Maybe Happy Ending, and I were talking a lot at the beginning about how people who all walk around with screens in their hands are metabolizing visual information. And we are able to sort of pinch and swipe and manipulate imagery in a very particular way. And we wondered if there was something we could create on stage that connected to it in some way. And so we knew we had to have some aperture system that would allow us to really push focus down into very tiny openings. Once we kind of like identified the tools we thought we wanted to have in our toolbox to tell this story visually, we then move into digital modeling. And so around the irises, I think we understood that we needed one very close to the audience that was ultimately the sort of like aperture for the whole show. And that's the sort of like primary lens into the world. And then from there, you know, you start to evaluate scene to scene. We really storyboard these musicals like you're storyboarding a movie. I think maybe Happy Ending has like 130 storyboards or something like that. And once we feel that we have created the container we want, it moves the way we want it to, it looks the way we want it to, then we go through the process of drafting that as you would anything that you're about to build. Those drawings are given to the scene shop, and from there is a process of engineers entering the conversation and feeding back in a helpful way, sometimes a sort of frustrating way, like what is actually possible. What you're seeing behind me is the edges of all of the irises that we use in the show. For a pretty big piece of scenery that you can see, it's like a big black piece of scenery, the thing that the audience is taking in is really just this little centimeter worth of light. Like that's the way that they are processing the information. So we all come back to, ideally, what you drew in Cinema 4D is indistinguishable from what you put on stage. That's the goal. All Broadway shows begin with preview performances. The difference between a preview performance and a regular performance is that the crew and the creative team are actively working on the show so that what happened on Tuesday night is a different show than what happens on Wednesday night and what happens on Thursday night and what happens on Friday night. In this particular process, one of the things we kept coming back to, it was the first set of scenic transitions in the show. Once we had introduced Oliver's room and then going to Claire's room for the first time, introducing that space, we've tried versions where she just walked out into the space, sang the first verse of her song, and then the iris opened and her room was there. And then ultimately landed on a version where we're in Oliver's room and we're closing down the iris, and then it almost immediately opens back up, and now her room is there, which is kind of a fun magic trick. Seeing it together for the first time, I think we were thrilled with what felt possible. Not that we had gotten it right yet on the first preview, but that there was something here in the vocabulary that was really unique. If the audience can't tell how something is happening or what is happening or exactly how the space works, I think that's exciting.